the recording on?
Yep, you are good to go.
Okay. Well, can you see if anybody's in yet?
Yes, we have 2 viewers.
Great. Well, we got 2 people, and that's fantastic. We usually give everybody a chance to get a cup of coffee or get their lunch or settle down. It is lunchtime, and we thank you for taking time out of your day to come to the 101, which is where we talk about how to use IRAs and 401ks to build wealth and reduce, or in some cases, eliminate taxes. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, but please feel free to tap any comments or questions you have into the comment bar, and I'll see them. Is that Michael? If you're still hanging in here, our producer is Michael. If he's still hanging in here, I think I will see those questions and we'll answer them to the best I
That is
can. If I
true.
can't get you an answer, I will get you an answer. Can't get you an answer right now. I'll get you an answer after we get off air. So here we go. First, the lawyers have to have their say. We're not advisors. We can't promote or endorse or recommend any investments at all. So what you're going to hear from me today is strictly educational. Anything that I present to you today is strictly to help you understand self-direction. We encourage everybody who gets involved with self-directed investing or alternative asset investing to consult with their tax person, their CPA, if necessary, their lawyers. We're happy to assist in educating them on what you're trying to do over here. But we do ask that you consult your team before doing anything. Anyway, enough of that. Bit about us. We've been around for 21 years. We just celebrated our 21st anniversary this month. And we're headquartered just north of Philadelphia, if you're familiar with Philadelphia or Pennsylvania. We're in commuting distance to the center city. We have about 8,500 clients nationwide and more than $1 billion with a B in assets under management. So that means we're big enough to get anything done that you need done, but we are small enough to answer the phone. We have a reputation for a commitment to excellence and service, and that means that when you call, you're going to speak with me or Courtney or Owen or Matt or someone in the operations department. And so we're very much hands-on when it comes to client service and quality of service. So for me, I spend most of my time dealing with people who are raising money. That's private equity, private lending, and venture capital people. And I help them on the other side of the deals that you get involved in. I help them smooth the way for their investors and help them use IRA and 401k money. We're huge on education, which is why I'm here with you today. And we do this every week. We also have weekly webinars on Thursdays at noon. If you go to the website, you can sign up. And even if you can't attend, you'll be sent replay links for each one, and you'll be alerted to the upcoming ones so that you don't miss any that you might be sincerely interested in. A bit about the founders of the company. It's a brother and sister team, a third generation real estate family. And they founded the company again 21 years ago. Carl is a rocket scientist. He spent time on the NASA space shuttle program and with some of the space contracting companies before getting into this. So he approaches this as an engineer, understands it completely. He's probably one of the 3 to 5 people in the country who know the most about self-directed IRA and 401k investing. His sister Maggie, hence the name CamaPlan, CAMA, as Fortune 50 experience building IT platforms. So she's responsible for all the infrastructure that we use to keep track of what you're doing in your IRAs and your 401ks. And I like to say this company was founded by investors for investors, and that's true because they are active investors. In one note is that they founded the company 21 years ago, but they are very hands-on. They're involved in the day-to-day activities. So the founders always have the most interest in keeping quality control and keeping the company on track. They're involved every day with all of us. So what do we do? Okay, if you have an IRA or a 401k, you have to have a neutral custodian. And you may have an IRA or a 401k at Schwab or Vanguard, Fidelity, or with any number of custodians who handle 401k plans for companies that you work for. So the IRS requires you to have someone to document what you're doing there. So we have to be a neutral third party. Again, we don't promote or recommend or endorse any investment advice. We do specialize in keeping you clean with the IRS with regard to your IRA and your 401k. We do know that pretty well. And so if you've got situations where you have questions about what you can and can't do, feel free to contact us. We like to tinker with these things, and Carl Fisher, the founder, is very good at picking up these things and examining them and looking for ways to get done what you need to get done, but doing it within compliance with IRS rules and regs. So we keep track of everything you do in your IRS and your IRA. We provide documentation to you for your tax prep specialist, and we also provide it to the IRS. And I mentioned earlier about your tax prep specialists um, and your attorney or your CPA. Well, we're very accustomed to being on the phone with those folks. We understand that what you're doing with us is just part of your overall financial picture, and we want to make sure it fits into the strategies that they are assisting you to execute to build your wealth and to preserve your wealth. So, so what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about the different types of IRAs. Some of these you might be familiar with, others you may see for the first time. We're going to talk about the different investments you can make, what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do, because there are some investments you can't make, and there are some rules about who you can make them with. And we're going to talk about a situation and an actual investment inside of an IRA versus outside of an IRA. And we're going to tell you once we get through that, how to actually get started. It's really a simple process. It only looks confusing because you haven't done it before, but we'll get you through it. After that, I've got some things that you can download to help you understand what you're doing with this, some resources that you can take and use. And we also have a lot at the website. By the way, we have a huge library of webinars and tools and checklists and things to help you there. So like I said, if I can't give you an answer here on this session within the next hour, I'll get you an answer and send it to you, um, because we like helping you figure out and help you get done what you want to do. So the term self-direction gets kicked around a lot. You know, Schwab and Fidelity and Vanguard, to the extent that you can invest in securities anywhere in the world, are self-directed within the world of listed securities. That's stocks and bonds and mutual funds, ETFs, things like that, commodities. So in a sense, they are self-directed. But what we deal with is everything else. So self-direction, for us means that you can invest in almost anything. And what we specialize in are the non-listed types of investments, such as apartment buildings and shares in ventures and startups, intellectual property, um, oil, gas, and mineral rights, song catalogs. Unfortunately, the list of things you can't do is pretty short. So we're just like Vanguard, Fidelity, and Schwab in that we host and we're custodians and administrators of your IRA and 401k, but we handle the non-traditional assets that we're going to talk about here today. So one of the things we like about self-direction is that you can invest in what you know and you can have more control over it. Um, we have a lot of people that come to us from real estate, from finance, mortgage brokers, construction people that worked on fix and flips and figured out how to do it, and now they're doing it. So there may be something that you bring to the table that gives you an advantage and helps you understand investments in a way outsiders don't. We get a lot of people who retire and they take their old 401ks and they put them to work in the industries that they've spent decades working in and understanding. So some of you may have huge advantages. Just look around from your experience set. Also, we'd like to think that there's more control in the sense that I can't call the president of NVIDIA um, and get him or her. I don't even know who that person is on the phone. I can own their shares, but I can call the guy I'm doing fix and flips with, or the fund manager that I've invested in, and that person will pick up the phone because I'm one of their investors. So you can get closer to the investments you're making. And we think that's a really distinct advantage. Let's take a look at some of the types of plans that we have. They fall into two broad categories. One is the tax deferred types of IRAs and 401ks. And most of you may be familiar with the traditional IRA. May have had one before as part of an employment package. You may have just done one because you know you get a tax deduction. There are variations on that, like the spousal or inherited, which is what happens when someone who owns an IRA passes away. And the next four are aimed at or built for employers and solo practitioners or solo gig operators and consultants and people who have small companies. And you may qualify here, even if you're working somewhere else as a W-2 person. If you're working and earning 1099 income, you could put one of these types of accounts. That's the SEP is the self-employed pension IRA. The simple is a plan that helps you assist employees with their savings in case you do have employees. The defined benefit plan is a pension. They do still exist outside the public sector. They're around. And the defined contribution plan is a 401k. That's what you'll know that, as many of you have had experience with those. The common thing about all of these, well, let me backpedal and say that the plans that are built for businesses are interesting because they allow you to put significant amounts of money in as contributions. And that's an area you want to look at if you've got a side gig, or if you got something going on and or you're in business for yourself and you don't have anything like this. You can have a 401k or an IRA at your employer, W-2 employers. And if you have a side hustle, you can put one of these plans on top of that side hustle and put away significant amounts of money. The key thing about all these is that the government incentivizes you to put money away in them. So you get a little attaboy or an attagirl every year. If you put in money into these accounts, you get a tax deduction, right? And that's what incentivized me to open my first IRA back in the Stone Age, and I thought it was a pretty good deal. And so they incentivize you to do that. It's kind of like helping you buy seeds to plant a crop, um, in that they're subsidizing you, and they're going to allow you to accumulate the earnings you make in there on a tax deferred basis. And when it comes time to take money out of that account, when you start taking distributions, you will pay taxes on what you've made in there. And the taxes will be paid at the same rate as the taxes you pay in the year that you take the distributions from the plan. So you put money away in there, the government gives you a little break along the way, and you accumulate that wealth. And when you get to be 59 and a half, you can take money out of those accounts. And again, when you take it out, you'll pay income tax on it at the same rate as you will pay on any other income that you're making. So you'll pay taxes on that. And the idea there is the government has subsidized you and it gets a piece of your profit when you start taking that stuff out. One thing about the tax deferred plans is that you're going to have to take money out. Right now it's at 73. In 2033, it's going to go up to 75. But you will be required to take money out of those accounts. And the way they calculate that, it's based on the value of the funds that you have in your IRAs and an actuarial table that the government revises from time to time. So you'll be required to, take money out. And the reason for this is that they want to get their share. So I want to get their share before you go. One thing that's new about this is in 2022, they allowed people who are still working to continue to contribute past the required minimum distribution age of 73. So if you're 74, 75, and you have earned income, you will be required to take distributions, but you can put money back in. As long as you have earned income, you can put up to the total amount of earned income, or this year it's $8,000 for people in that age bracket. All right, the other side is more interesting and it's more lucrative. This is where the government doesn't give you any incentive to do these things. This is the Roth IRA, which you may have heard of. There are Roth-like accounts like the health savings account, the education savings account, which you can put money away for your kids to go to college or trade school, whatever you'd like them to do or whatever they like to do, and a Roth-like 401k in case you have a business. The deal here is that the government is not providing you with any incentive. So you're going to put the seeds in, you're going to plant the crop, you're going to water, you're going to pray for rain, you're going to deal with blight, you're going to harvest it, you're going to take it to market, you're going to sell it, but you get to keep all of it. So when you get to 59 and a half, you could empty that account out on day one and go buy an island or, or a yacht, and there's no taxes. Probably the most prolific example of someone who's used that to his advantage is Peter Thiel. He put his PayPal shares into his Roth IRA, and he has somewhere north of $1 billion in that account, and he will never have any tax applied to it whenever he decides to take it out. Uh, But he may decide not to take it out, because one of the things about the Roth is you're not going to be required to take it out at 73. You can leave it in there and leave it for your heirs if you'd like. So again, the difference is subsidized, they get a piece of your action. Non-subsidized, you get to keep it all. Let's look at what you can invest in. As I said, the list of things you can't invest in is very short. I'm just going to point out a couple of things here because I don't know who in attendance today, what areas that they're interested in. We're a big real estate shop. Probably 65% of the assets under management here are either direct purchases of real estate or real estate adjacent investments. That's people who loan money in real estate deals or invest in syndications or funds that deal in real estate. You're not limited to, I'll point out one or two things. You're not limited to just structures. You can invest in land. We have a lot of people who do land banking. You're also not limited to the United States. We have people who invest overseas as well. And in things like storage facilities and recreational vehicle parks and mobile home parks. And I saw a presentation not too long ago, somebody who's doing marinas. So all in all its infinite variety, you can invest in real estate, either through direct ownership or indirect ownership. And that indirect ownership can come in a lot of different ways. And the third column over there shows you. I mean, we've got LLCs, we've got limited partners that you participate as a limited partner in another deal where there's a general partner or an operating partner. Virtually every corporate structure you can imagine is possible here, with the exception of S corps. We see a lot of people investing in funds, what are called Regulation A and D and CF, and there are various rules and regulations regarding the operation of those funds. Some of them are limited to um, what are called accredited investors, and others are open to investors of more modest means. And you can also um, invest in gold and silver and all the metals. And unlike what you see on TV, no, you can't take delivery of it and put it under your bed or hide it in a toilet tank. You have to keep it in a depository. But the great thing is we arrange all that. You find a broker and you agree on a purchase, on a price for purchase of metals. We'll assist in arranging and coordinating the transport of those metals from wherever they are to a depository where you'll be in compliance with IRS rules and regs. Um, I'm going to go through a couple of these just to get a little bit of detail. The first four on this list are all rental properties, and we see a lot of this. It's a very big part of self-directed investing. Again, I talked about improved and unimproved land. There's a fund, for example, that permits land and acquires it and remediates soil in some cases and clears and makes sure that the titles are all in order and sells that to major single-family home builders. And you can invest in that fund and take a piece of the profit that they make when they sell the land to the big home builders who don't want to deal in land acquisition. Um, there's also, as I mentioned before, foreign property investment. We have people invested in coffee plantations in Colombia and vacation properties in Costa Rica. So you're pretty much unlimited with regard to the types of real estate. As I mentioned before, you can invest more passively, and I like this area because I don't have the skill sets necessary to operate rental properties of any kind, and I'm busy with other things, and so I like to lend money. I buy and sell mortgage notes. I lend to fix and flippers. I like the passive stuff because, again, not only do I have the not have the skills, but I don't want to deal with what are called the four T's. that landlords deal with, and that's toilets, taxes, tenants, and trash. So I like the hands-off way of doing businesses. We also have people who do leases. Got a guy with a dump truck in his IRA because it's a portable form of rental property. He leases it out to construction companies on a long-term basis, and he makes money there, and that goes right back into his. Well, in this case, it's his Roth IRA, so he's getting that tax-free. You can also do convertible notes, which is lending people money to convert into equity at some point. And secured notes are unsecured notes. I've done some unsecured note investing with parties that I know very well. In one case, someone who does business with me has done business with me for a long time. He has the kind of business that requires funding up front in order to acquire the materials, the raw materials he needs to make what he does and sell. And so I loan him the money up front and he gives me a split of the profit on the back end. So that's worked out very, very well. Um, Again, every form of corporate investment, I'm not going to get too deep into that. One thing I will note is that we are seeing more investment clubs. So if you're new to this game and you want to learn fast, find an investment club you're comfortable with or form one. If you're in real estate, there are real estate industry association chapters all over the country. There are investment clubs everywhere. And here you get to take advantage of people who have already been through it, who have a lot of knowledge, have made many mistakes that you don't need to make, and you can benefit from that. And what we're seeing now is clubs that band together to make larger investments. They band together as a tribe and come in individually into investments and get better terms, or they form an LLC and come in as a single entity, as a limited partner in a larger deal. So we're seeing more and more of these. And also, self-direction is a springboard into some of the bigger things that are going on. We have a lot of people who have been doing self-direction for decades, ever since we started, and they've done real estate. They're very comfortable with it. They've built a great foundation, and now they're looking at the kind of returns that the venture capital people are getting. They're becoming their own hedge funds, and they're becoming their own venture capital organizations. So it's a great springboard for building generational wealth. Okay, this being the IRS, there's some things you can't do, and most of it involves highly speculative valuation. These assets can be valued wildly differently depending upon who's looking at them. So, fine art, Persian rugs, metals or gems. This is stuff like Roman coins and artifacts and things like this that are highly speculative and difficult to value. Things like you can't put any firearms or booze or anything like that in there. So if you have a bottle of 61 Chateau Petrus, you're going to have to drink that yourself outside of your IRA. So as you can see, it's a very, very small list. The exception of this would be the minted gold and silver eagles, silver coins, and not just eagles. You can invest in Chinese pandas. You can have cougarans, South African cougarans, Canadian maple leafs. Anything that's minted by a sovereign entity, you're allowed to keep in your IRA or 401k. Again, as long as it's in a depository, and we can help you with that. Again, this being the IRS, there are some rules about who you can do things with. And I want to make a distinction here between investing in and investing with. You can't invest in any of the people in your linear family predominantly. Okay, these are all the people with the blue squares here. So your parents can't invest in your business. You can't invest in your kid's business. Can't invest in your spouse's business. Your spouse can't invest in yours. But you can invest in other members of your family. I'll give you an example. I had family members got a company. He needed a piece of capital equipment. I used my IRA to loan him money, and he paid me back at a market rate. And it was a situation where he needed to move quickly on a piece of equipment that may have been purchased by someone else, and he was able to get the equipment he needed at a reasonable interest. Again, the IRS requires you to charge a market rate of interest, and I made a little money on the deal, and I got to help him out. So, that's something you can do. Now, come back to the issue of investing in versus investing with, you can invest alongside of anybody on this list. I'll give you an example. If I find a note and it's a if I find a note and I can afford to buy 50% of it, and my wife can afford to buy the other 50% of it, we can invest together. So even though we can't invest in one another's businesses, we can invest together. And the same thing applies to everyone else on this chart. And that's a great force multiplier if you have family members that have IRAs and 401ks, or even non-IRA and 401k money. You can put that together with IRAs and 401ks. As long as you're not investing in, you're investing alongside of in a third party opportunity. So I hope that was clear. Again, if there are any questions, um, feel free to ask. There are a couple of other things you can't do, and most of it involves around self-dealing. In fact, that's the unifying principle. You can't be on either side of the transaction. We have a lot of people that say, well, I want to sell my house into my IRA. We can't do that because you're on both sides of it. Uh, the most frequent examples we get of this are people who say, I want to buy a vacation home and and rent it out all year, and then I'm going to go down there for 2 weeks out of the year. And you can't do that. This is supposed to be a passive form of investment, and you're not supposed to benefit on the other side of it. We have similar situations where somebody's sending their kid off to college and they want to buy a condo, rent out 3 bedrooms, and the son or daughter will stay in the fourth for free, and you can't do that either. Um, People frequently ask, well, who's going to know? I give you one word: divorce. That's probably the biggest thing. Um, Second thing is people like to talk about what great deals they get and how clever they are, and so you'll tell somebody you're doing this, and if you have a falling out on them, who knows, right? So, um, so with all the rules and regulations, why would you do this? Well, it's the money. Let's start looking at it this way. If you're a W-2 or 1099 wage earner, you're paying a lot of tax. In some states, you're paying more than what you see here, but we just did an average. So you make $100,000 and you're going to end up with 60. The rest of it gets sucked up by the tax people. You move up the food chain, you go to the passive investments like royalties and dividends and things like that. You're not paying Social Security, Medicare. You're not paying workman's comp and all that stuff. So you get to keep more of it. When you get into the IRA area, you get to keep all of it. Now, in the tax deferred traditionals, you're going to pay when you take distributions. That's just part of the game. But you get to accumulate that stuff throughout the life of the account until you begin to take distributions. And here, I'm going to show you what that looks like. We did some assumptions here. We started out with 50 grand and we went over 40 years. And the key here is that the blue bar, the tax person comes in and takes a bite out of it every year. So you're getting nicked every year. In the middle bar, you're getting to keep it until you take distributions, which is why this particular bar is shorter than the tall green one. So the important point here is that you can accelerate or accumulate at a faster rate inside of these protected accounts than you would outside of the IRA altogether. But the real sweet one is the Roth IRA. As you can see here, you're 3 times wealthier at the end of this period of time because you've accumulated it without any interference, and then you get to keep all of it without paying any taxes, income or capital gains. That's an important distinction. Let's take a look at this example. Here's a real estate deal where you got 2 people. They're buying identical buildings side by side, built the same year, identical in every way, maintained in every way the same. And the buildings each generate $100,000 in rental income. Well, if you're outside of the IRA, you're going to get a nice depreciation allowance. All right. And that's nice because that knocks a little bit off of your taxable income. And to be fair here, you're also going to get other deductions, other expenses, which are going to reduce your taxable income. But the principle is that you're going to pay tax um, on the gross income. So each year you're going to get a little bit less, in this case, quite a bit less than you would if you allowed the income to flow into the Roth IRA. where you don't get the depreciation allowance, but there's no income tax. So you get to save this. So let's say you hung on to this thing for 7 years or 10 years, you're looking at $1 million in revenue versus 790,000 in revenue. That's a pretty big difference. Um, but the real magic comes when you sell it. Let's say you hang on to it for 10 years and you sell it for 3 million bucks. The guy on the right has depreciation recapture, and there's a formula down here that Carl put together for us. And if you have any input on it, we'd love to hear it. This is based on his experience and his understanding, and he's been doing this for decades. But you're going to get a depreciation recapture, and you're also going to pay capital gains. So you're going to end up with a lot less of the proceeds of that sale in your pocket, almost $500,000 less than over here. And then during the lifetime of the investment, you know, that's a significant amount of money right there. So this is why you would do it. This is where all the magic happens. Okay, a little bit of difference between operating income properties inside of an IRA and outside of an IRA, and I'm just going to make note of it because again, I'm focusing on real estate, but you may be focused on other things. Typically, the property person starts to accumulate rental properties and accumulate a portfolio of doors, as they say. That person is directly involved in the maintenance and operation of those properties, and they get accustomed to doing that. And over a period of time, they might build a network of carpenters and handymen and electricians and plumbers, but they really have a hands-on operation here. In the IRA, you're operating that at arm's length. The entire business of that rental property operates inside of your IRA. That means that the taxes are paid by the IRA, the contractors are paid by it. You can't touch the property. The utility bills, if you're paying them, are paid by the IRA, and all of the income from the rental flows back into the IRA. So there's a saying that you can pick the paint out, but you can't paint the walls. In the non-IRA scenario, you can get involved in hands-on your property. Here you can't. And sometimes landlords we speak to have a little trouble getting their arms around it. But if you're your goal is to build a portfolio of 100 doors, you're going to end up with a bunch of these type of guys and gals anyway. So Carl Fisher, the founder, tells a story about how he was watching a property that was going to come up for sale and he missed the chance to bid on it because he was busy saving himself 25 bucks an hour painting one of his other properties. So, if you're going to scale your business, you want to get here faster anyway. Now that you've seen what they are and what they do, what the rules are, what you can't invest in, what you can invest in, who you can invest with and who you can't invest with, let's look at the process. It's really a lot easier than it looks from the outside, and this pretty graphic can be boiled down to 3 steps. You're going to open your account, you're going to fund it, which means you're going to transfer money over from another similar account if you're opening an IRA, or you're going to roll over money from a retirement plan like a 401k that you may have had with an old employer. And I know it's a distinction without much of a difference. It's just a matter of the mechanics of how the money moves. And then you're going to make your investment. It's really 3 steps. So if you have an IRA and you're opening an IRA at CamaPlan, you can take care of steps 1 and 2 in about 20 minutes because we'll initiate the transfer for you. In the case of a rollover from an old retirement plan, if you're a retired public sector person with a TSP, 457, the 403B, we'll help you and give you instructions on what to give to the custodians of that plan to enable the rollover of funds from that plan to your new CamaPlan account. So we'll help you with all that stuff. And then once it's in there, you're free to go and make the kinds of investments. This is all online, by the way, but we'll guide you through it. We've got instruction sets that we can give you, and we'll get on and do a 2-way call with you to walk you through it, make sure that you fill out everything right. And if you get stuck, there's always somebody to come to the rescue. So we don't leave you out there in the dark trying to figure it out like a piece of IKEA furniture. Here's a few things I'll leave you with, and One of them is a lot of people are concerned that they don't have enough money to do this. And you don't want to come over with too little money, but you can magnify the power of money that you have, a modest amount, by doing a number of things. You could use the money in your IRA to put a down payment on a property, and you can get what's called a non-recourse loan, a mortgage in effect that your IRA takes out on that property, and you can finance the purchase of your rental property. You can also, as I mentioned earlier, team up with other people, pool your money. If you've got non-IRA money, you could put that together with other people's money. A lot of times, I'll ask folks, well, do you have relatives who believe in what you're trying to do if you're just getting started? And they say, yeah, they really want me to do well in this. I said, well, do they have any money to lend you? I said, well, no, they don't have any money. I said, well, do they have an old IRA or an old 401k that's not doing anything right now? Because this is an opportunity for them to help you and make a little money. So this thing here, and if you hold up your phone camera to this QR code, you can download this report. And it's encouraging for those of you who are just getting started. Um, it's hopefully spurs you on to get your account open and get your funds in and get started on this. And again, these are at the website. If you don't catch them here, don't worry about it. There's a longer 101 at the website too. If you want to take like the full course and get into a lot more detail, there's one of those there too. Another thing I'll leave you with is there's a short video that explains everything that I went through today, but it does it in about 5 minutes, and it's much more clever than I am. So if you want to go ahead and put your phone up to the screen, you can download that as well. And we also have, again, weekly webinars. They're on Thursdays at noon. Go to the website, sign up for one of them, and you'll be notified. And you can also get the replay links if you're not able to join us in the middle of the day. We also have a podcast, The Road to Financial Freedom, stories of investors like you who have made the journey to self-directed investing and to financial freedom. So anyway, I've yammered on long enough. This is me, but there's a whole group of people who can help you at CamaPlan. So don't hesitate to call us. You need to have a question. You're not ready to get started. It doesn't matter. We're patient. We're ready when you are. One question that comes up, and I'll create my own question since I didn't see any over there, is fees. Let's walk through this. If you wanted to invest in a piece of real estate and you wanted to do it in your account, you would open your account. That would be $75. You'd bring your funds over from another custodian. There's no charge for that. And there's no charge for keeping cash in your account at CamaPlan, although we don't recommend it because we don't have an interest-bearing vehicle. So, you'll want to keep that in mind. You purchase your property. If let's say it's a direct purchase of real estate, it's $175. If it's any other type of asset, it's $150. And then it's either $10 to send a wire, I'm sorry, to send an ACH or a check, or $30 to send a wire. So 75 plus 175 or 150 to buy the asset, a fee to send the money over to the sponsor or the seller. And then for each asset in your account, it's $300 a year. Now, if you start accumulating a lot of assets in your account, we have another fee basis, which is the account value fee basis, which we use for people with very modest accounts or people who have many assets in them. The important point is we'll keep you in the most economical fee bases. And also, I do calculations for clients all the time and add up all the fees that they're going to pay or have paid. And I calculate that against their account value, and it rarely comes out to more than really comes out to more than 0.5% or 0.75% or 1%. For comparison, full service brokerage firms typically charge 1 to 2%. So it's a very economical way to invest, especially if you're getting the high returns that you can get. We're not promising you will, that you can get in with alternative asset investing. So again, I can include a fee recap if you contact me or anyone else here. We'll provide you with a complete fee analysis so you know what you're doing before you do it. Anyway, thanks so much for sharing time with me in the middle of it. I'm sure it's a very busy day. Feel free to come back next week if you want to redo this again, or visit the website and get more. Anyway, have a great day.